Everyone's talking about the 8-hour eating window for Crohn's, but here's what the research actually shows, and the 3 questions you need to ask before you try it. Hi, I'm Kate, and today we're talking about time-restricted feeding for Crohn's disease, not the Instagram version, the clinical research version. Because right now, there's a lot of noise about intermittent fasting and Crohn's, and some of it's genuinely interesting, but some of it could land you in trouble if you don't know what you're doing. Here's what I see in my practice. Someone reads about the 8-hour eating window online, decides to try it, stops eating breakfast, pushes through to lunch feeling awful, and within 3 days they're either in a flare or so undernourished they can barely function. Or the opposite. Someone's gastroenterologist mentioned they've seen some patients do well with eating in a narrow window, but gives no guidance on how to actually do it safely. So the person's left wondering if they're allowed to even try. My son tried a version of just this during his healing phase, not because it was trendy, but because we noticed his body actually seemed to respond better when he wasn't eating all the time. But we did it carefully, and we watched him. Because here's the thing, time-restricted feeding isn't the same as skipping meals when you're malnourished. They're completely different interventions with completely different outcomes. So let's get clear on what we're actually talking about. Time-restricted feeding, or TRF, means eating all of your food within a specific window each day. The 8-hour window is popular, but it could be 10 or 12 hours. The point is you're extending the time you're not eating, which gives your digestive system a longer break. The research on this for Crohn's is early, but it's genuinely interesting. Studies show that TRF can reduce inflammation markers, improve the gut microbiome, and support the intestinal barrier. Not in everyone, not dramatically, but definitely measurably. But here's what people miss. These studies weren't done on severely malnourished, flaring, underweight Crohn's patients. I'll say it again. These studies weren't done on severely malnourished, flaring, underweight Crohn's patients. They were done on stable patients who could afford to experiment. The mistake is thinking this is either a miracle protocol everyone should try or dangerous nonsense no one should touch. The reality. It's a tool, and like any tool, it works brilliantly in the right hands at the right time and causes damage when used incorrectly. So let's talk about how to know if this is even appropriate for you, and if it is, how to test it safely. Step 1. Ask yourself the 3 qualifying questions. Before you even think about trying an 8-hour eating window, you need to honestly answer these 3 questions. Question 1. Are you currently well nourished? If you're underweight, if you lost weight recently, if your BMI is below normal, if you're struggling to eat enough calories, this is not for you right now, full stop. Time-restricted feeding only works when you can fit adequate nutrition into that shorter window. If you're already fighting to get enough food in, making the window smaller is just going to make malnutrition worse. Question 2. Are you in a stable remission or very mild disease state? If you're actively flaring, if you're having multiple bowel movements a day, if you're dealing with significant pain or bleeding, this is not the time to experiment with meal timing. The research that shows benefits were done on stable patients. Your body needs consistent fuel when it's trying to heal active inflammation. Question 3. Do you have a history of disordered eating? This is the one people skip, and it does really matter. If you've ever struggled with restrictive eating patterns, if you've had a complicated relationship with food, if you tend to use food rules as control, time-restricted feeding can become a socially acceptable way to restrict, and that is dangerous. Be honest with yourself here. If you've answered yes to all three questions, you're well nourished, you're stable, and you have a healthy relationship with food, then maybe this is worth exploring. So now, let's talk about how we do it. Start with a 12-hour window, not 8. Everybody wants to jump straight to the 8-hour window because that's what gets talked about online, but that is not where you start. Begin with a 12-hour eating window. It might look like eating between 7 and 7. You're still getting 3 meals, you're not feeling deprived, but you're giving your gut a solid 12-hour overnight break. Do that for 2 weeks. See how you feel. Check your energy, your bowel patterns, your sleep, your mood. If you feel worse, if you're losing weight, if you're more fatigued, if your symptoms are increasing, stop. This isn't your intervention right now. If you feel the same or better, you could try narrowing it to 10 hours. Eat between 8 and 6, or 9 and 7, whatever fits your life. Give that another 2 weeks, same monitoring. Only if that goes well would you consider moving to 8. And honestly, most people find their sweet spot at 10 or 12. You don't have to go to 8 to see benefits. Step 3. Protect your nutrition within the window. This is where people crash and burn. They think time-restricted feeding means eating less, but it doesn't. You still need the same calories, the same protein, the same nutrients. You're just fitting them into a shorter time frame. That means your meals need to be substantial. If you're eating in an 8-hour window, you're likely having 2 large meals and 1 snack, or 3 solid meals close together. Those meals need to be nutrient dense, protein at each one, healthy fats, vegetables if you tolerate them, enough carbs to fuel your day. This is not a weight loss diet. If you're losing weight, you're doing it wrong. My son, when he was experimenting, was eating between 11 and 7, but his first meal at 11 was substantial. Eggs, avocado, sourdough, sometimes a smoothie, then a full dinner, then often a snack before 7. He wasn't eating less food, he was eating the same amounts in a shorter window, and we tracked his weight weekly. If it dropped, we stopped. Step 4. Watch for the warning signs. You need to know when to stop. Time-restricted feeding isn't working if you're losing weight. Your energy is tanking, especially in the morning. You're getting more frequent bowel movements or looser stools. You're thinking about the food obsessively during your fasting window. You're feeling cold, lightheaded, or shaky. Your sleep is getting worse. You're more irritable or anxious. Any of these signs means stop, go back to normal eating, and check in with your medical team. This should feel sustainable and neutral. If it feels like a struggle, it's not the right approach for you right now. Step 5. Always keep your medical team informed. This is not a replacement for medical treatment. It's an additional strategy you're testing alongside your medication, alongside your regular monitoring. Tell your gastroenterologist you're trying this. Tell them your eating window. Tell them you're tracking your weight and symptoms. Ask them to keep an eye on your inflammatory markers at your next appointment. If you work with a dietitian, even better. They can help you make sure you're getting adequate nutrition within your window. Time-restricted feeding works best as part of a comprehensive approach, not a solo mission. So what the research actually shows? Well, the clinical research tells us that time-restricted feeding in IBD shows it can reduce inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein and fecal calprotectin. It can improve the diversity of the gut microbiome. It can strengthen the intestinal barrier. It seems to work partly through giving the gut a break and partly through supporting the circadian rhythm of the digestive system. but the effect sizes are modest. We're talking about supportive benefits, not disease remission. And the research is still early. We don't have long term studies. We don't know optional windows for different people. We don't know who responds best. What we do know is that it's safe to try in stable, well nourished patients, and some people genuinely feel better. That's the honest answer. So here's where you end up if you approach this sensibly. You might try a 12-hour eating window and discover your digestion feels calmer, your sleep improves, and your energy is more stable. You might find that's your sweet spot and stay there. Or you might try it for 2 weeks and realize it doesn't suit you. You feel worse, or it's too hard to do, or you can't fit in enough food, or it triggers old patterns with food and you stop, knowing you gave it a fair test. Either outcome is fine. This isn't a test that you pass or fail, it's information about what your body needs right now. My son did well with a 10-hour window for about 6 months, then naturally shifted back to eating across more of the day as his gut healed. It was useful for a season, not a forever rule. That's how these tools work. You use them when they help, and you let them go when they don't. If this helped you think more clearly about time restricted feeding and Crohn's, share it with someone who's been wondering about this. And if you want more practical evidence based guidance on managing Crohn's naturally alongside your medical care, come find the Crohn's method. We talk about this stuff properly. No hype, no nonsense, just what actually works. I'll see you in the next video. Have a beautiful day.